Welcome to episode 2 of Slamfire. Thanks for joining us. Well, thanks for joining me today. I'm actually flying solo today. I'll explain a little bit more about that in a bit. But first, I got a couple announcements that I wanted to bring to your attention. Whoever's watching this, we don't have too many viewers. We literally just started this last week on, what was it, October 16th or something like that. So this is very new, so I don't expect a lot of people to be following along, which is fine. It's okay. But I wanted to bring you guys attention to. I've been working on this. This is not something that we're kind of just sitting on and it's just whatever, see what happens type of thing. No, we're actually working on this, trying to make this, as professional as possible, as entertaining as possible, as, just something as attractive as possible. You want to look at something nice, and you don't want to just spend your time on something that you feel like you're wasting your time on, right? You don't want to be sitting around listening to something or talking about something that they're just they really don't care about what they're doing, so they're kind of just looking for clicks or something. So I wanted to show you guys our website. We actually started up a website, and we have basic stuff. It's nothing crazy, so it's just like it says right here, slamfiremedia.com. Very simple website. We actually have our first episode that we did last week. We're going to be posting them on. For now, we can add more. There's some other video hosting sites that I was thinking about. I just don't want to be, constrained to just YouTube, just posting on YouTube, because the way things are going, and um, you can't be too certain that you can't be banned in certain places. You know what I mean? Like, you just for saying something that you think is not wrong. I mean, we always think that we have freedom. I live in the United States, and we're so used to having our freedom of speech and just being able to say whatever we want without repercussion. But now that's kind of starting to change. So also with the fact that I know a lot of people don't like to use YouTube, so trying to diversify. So we also have links to Rumble, BitChute, and we also have a Patreon link if you guys want to check that out. You don't have to, just it's there for those of you who are compelled. This does take time, guys. Like, it took me a while to kind of set all this stuff up and get everything going and making little logos and stuff like that. This is all kind of just placeholder type stuff. We're just using it in the meantime. If this turns into something big where we can maybe, that'd be really awesome if we can like do this as like a full-time job. That'd be really, really cool. We can invest a little bit more time, kind of pay people to, do little logos and little cover art for us, and stuff like that. That'd be really, really cool to do. Create like a little business out of it. That'd be really, really cool. But that's neither here nor there. We're just kind of doing this as a little project that me and my buddy and I enjoy. We enjoy talking to each other. We enjoy conversing and getting into discussions that sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't agree. And I think we need more of that, at least in today's atmosphere, where everything is like you either need to be on the right side or the wrong side. Like, it's always either right or wrong. There's no in between. And we just need to get back to the way we used to be, where, you know, I don't like to put ketchup on my hamburgers. You know, that's just a preference that I have. Whereas other people, they like to put ketchup on their hamburgers, and it's like I shouldn't have to bite someone's head off because it's like, we have a difference of opinion. That's the way everything should be. You know, there are differences, though. I understand that when someone starts reaching into your pocket, when someone starts affecting your life, that's when lines get crossed. But that still doesn't mean that we shouldn't talk about these things, right? We should talk about these things first and try to figure out the middle ground type of thing. So right now, my wife is mopping and doing stuff, so hopefully it's not too bad. But like I said, this is just a simple website, nothing crazy. Like I said, all this stuff is just kind of placeholder, but we got links to everything right here. You guys can check that out. So after today's episode, I'll be posting episode number 2 down right here, and that'll be it. So today's episode, we were supposed to talk about, my buddy and I were supposed to talk about, when do you cross the line? When do you cross the line of taking action? So the way I worded it to my friend, it's like, okay, when is it time to like start fighting? Because every time it's kind of determined that we need to use violence as a last resort. Like, you should try to exhaust all other options before you start thinking about violence. That goes to every aspect, of life, whether it's at work, whether it's in at your house, whether it's comes to politics, whether it comes to, foreign affairs, everything's always, that's kind of like, it's kind of like the general rule that violence should be the last resort. But shouldn't there be like a line, like a definitive line? I guess it's kind of impossible for there to be a definitive line. I guess the line would be different for everyone, because we all have different opinions on what is a call to action type of thing. You know what I mean? Like one person could be in a situation where they feel extremely threatened, right? Because whatever's happening in that situation, they feel threatened, so they personally feel like they're being backed into a corner, and then boom, they lash out because it reaches a certain threshold, and they do what they have to do, what they feel they have to do to, defend themselves, to protect their well-being, whatever it might be, right? But another person who's maybe desensitized, who is not afraid of confrontation, will kind of be backed into the corner, and their corner is not so tight. You know what I mean? It's kind of like they can keep going back a little bit further back, a little bit further back. So their threshold isn't as low as someone who would kind of feel uncomfortable right away because they're not used to some sort of uncomfortable interaction with somebody. Whether it be just someone down the street, or maybe at work, or in a public place. Everyone has a different type of threshold, I think. So with that in mind, I still feel there are some sort of like definitive lines that you just, when they're crossed, something's going to happen. It's a reasonable prediction that someone is going to do something violent, right? So with that in mind, let's go back to our desktop here, or our window here. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but I don't know if we mentioned it too much in last episode, but uh, you guys will start picking up a pattern. Those of you guys who listen, I'm going to reference a lot to Tim Cast a lot, because I do a lot of things. I feel very, very, I don't know. I don't want to say connected. I feel like I think very similarly to the way Tim Pool thinks. Him and I are about the same age, and we think very similar, where we're kind of in the middle, but we kind of lean towards the right, and we're very. Tim is very. I'm going to talk to him like I know him, right? Like Tim, Tim Pool. He's very libertarian, and I feel that I'm very libertarian as well. My wife and I, we kind of had an epiphany one day. I remember my wife and I were sitting down for lunch, and we were just talking about something random, about work or whatever it was, and it came up, like politics came up, like what makes a Democrat and Republican, like kind of the definitions type of thing, not really anything serious or anything, just kind of like, how would you describe someone who is a Democrat? How would you describe someone as a Republican? And my wife kind of had like an epiphany, and she says, "Oh my God, I think I'm a libertarian." And it was just one of those things where it's like you never really think about it, and then it kind of hits you, not really like a ton of bricks, but it just kind of hits you, and it's surprising that you can be something that the majority of people are kind of forced to be, where you kind of, the way that our elections kind of work, it's like you have Democrat and you have Republican, and you have to vote either one. And if you vote independent, if you vote a third party, it's kind of a wasted vote. That's kind of like the saying goes. You're just wasting a vote if you're voting for an independent, or you're voting for someone who is not a Republican or a Democrat. And it kind of makes sense, right? The majority of people kind of fall in to those two categories. But I like to reference Tim Pool a lot, just because I don't know. I just seem like minds kind of attract. You know what I mean? I feel like I think very similar to the way he does, but there are some things that I disagree with him on, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. That's not what the purpose of this video is. The purpose of the video is, where do you draw the line? When is it an acceptable time for you to, basically defend yourself or start a fight? You know what I mean? And the more and more I've been listening to Tim Pool, it's been kind of hard to listen to him lately. He does have a podcast. He does it every day, I believe. I don't get to watch it every day because, like I said, I'm working a lot, and I can't listen to it while I'm at work. But he does do a podcast every day, and they have news articles and everything like that. And a lot of the things that it's kind of been talking about has been talking about inflation, and pretty much like like pretty much the end of our not civilization, but the end of our way of life. Things are kind of, the Great Reset, and all of these similar themes keep kind of popping up. How we have a lot more we have a lot more people kind of feeling the effects of this inflation, of the shortages, and everything's costing everybody a lot more money, and you know we, we're kind of heading in a downward trend type of thing, and it's just constant. Like it's been an ongoing. It's been very very difficult to listen to Timcast, to the podcast recently, because they've just been so negative, and I don't think he does it intentionally. I think maybe he does. Maybe he does. It's kind of like what are those movies like? I'm thinking of those movies like 2012, like apocalyptic type movies, like end of the world type movies where people like to go because it's like destruction porn type of thing. And I think that's what maybe, I don't know, maybe there's some of that going on right now. People like to see destruction. People like to say that I told you so. I don't know. I could be. This is what Slamfire is, guys. I kind of just talk out of my ass and I just go boom, boom, boom. I just keep going without aiming, without thinking. That's why we call this show Slamfire, because it's just I'm telling you what I think and based off what I see and everything like that. And it's just very very interesting because it's just constant, constant. So it kind of leads me to think like, hey, if this is what's getting his clicks, if this is what's getting his views, it's kind of like that positive reinforcement. So you have Tim Cass talking about kind of the end of our way of life that we're used to. The we're so used to just buying something and it showing up in our doorstep a few days later. We're able to go to the supermarket and have everything readily available for us, whatever we want at cheap prices. We're so used to that, because we've been living like that for the past, I don't know, as far as I can remember, it's been fairly comfortable. There have been some dips in the economy that I can remember where things were a little bit difficult, but nothing like this. So it's pretty obvious. So it feels like we're getting kind of backed into the corner here. You know what I mean? We're getting backed into the corner. If you go onto like the Daily Wire, same thing. A lot of stuff, a lot of political stuff that are happening, the border crisis, and there's a lot of things going on in different parts of the world. Uh, there's another YouTube page that was actually recommended to me that's really really good, and it's just talking about the craziness that's going on and everything like that. Daily Wire has a bunch of stuff. Even the Washington Post. Let's see if this loads up brand new. Yeah, Washington Post has some things going on that they're still trying to bring up old stuff about Trump, and just kind of just not letting it die. You know what I mean? Just kind of like continuing to poke the bear, and it's like, why? Why? What good is that? Like, Biden is president. Like, let's focus on the problems that he's facing right now, so that we can all be better off. Because right now, from what I've seen and the news that I've seen, Biden isn't really doing much. He's pretty much locked in the basement. Kamala Harris is supposed to be. Let's go back to right here. Kamala Harris is supposed to be like the border czar. I don't know. I need to look this up. I haven't looked it up. I should have, but I've never heard of a border czar. Is that like a new term that they've made for like specifically for Kamala Harris? I don't know. I don't know of any other person that has been given the rank of border czar. I've never heard of that before. So to me, that sounds like that's not just like a director or a supervisor or like a manager or anything like that. Border czar, that's like supreme type of stuff. You know what I mean? And she went just once, and that's about it. She didn't do anything. And I remember them talking about that they're going to take care of the root problem and this and that, blah blah blah. But I don't hear much about. I don't hear much in terms of progress with helping the Haitians and the people in Southern America and South America, improving their lives back at home, so they don't come over here and break the law by crossing the borders illegally, because they are breaking the law. You know what I mean? Like, you can say all you want, and me and my buddy, we live very close to where a lot of these things are happening, and we feel this very much it very much hits home, like literally, because it's a place where when all of this started happening, it was like in a downtown area. My wife and I, we went to a city, and we were gonna get something to eat at this restaurant that had just opened up that they wanted to try. I don't know why my wife likes to try like different crazy. They're not crazy. They're just different places that she wants to try. And it's always the same stuff. Like it's either like ramen, like noodles or something, and then it's like tacos. And there's like taco stands everywhere. And we were kind of talking about that in our last podcast. Like there's like so many taco places, but my wife wants to go try. Oh, look, there's this new taco place that opened up, and it's like, we already found a place that has good tacos. Why do we need to go to a new place? Doesn't make sense. But whatever. We went to this place. It was a downtown area, downtown city area, and we parked. We found a little parking spot, and we walked a little bit. There was a pawn shop that I wanted to go to because supposedly they had some. This was kind of like at the peak of the of the gun supply, shortage and things like that, ammo shortage. You couldn't find any ammo anywhere, and I wanted to see if they had a pistol that I was looking for, and maybe hopefully find some, 223 or some 9 millimeter. And on our way back, walking from the pawn shop, on our way walking to the taco place or whatever the restaurant was, I see these big white tents. And I'm thinking, what the heck is going on over there? It's just like kind of in the corner. It just stood out like it didn't belong. You know what I mean? Because you guys have seen like a downtown area. It has streets on both streets in the street in the middle. Then you got like businesses on both sides, and it's just like kind of like a corridor type of thing. This thing just stuck out like a sore thumb, and I told my wife like, what is going on? Like, is there like a quarantine? Is there like what like was there a biological attack that we didn't know about? It was just so out of place because it just seemed like a normal day. That was another strange thing. You know how COVID has kind of kept everybody indoors? No, man, like the downtown was bustling. There were like people walking, there was families, there were people just sitting down and conversing. It was very strange because, we're so used to being in lockdown and everyone just kind of being away from each other, social distancing and things like that. And people are talking, people are having a good time. It just looked like a normal day in Texas. It was just so weird. But then these big old tents, these big old white tents come, and we see people walking out, and they're wearing like face masks and gloves, and just covered in PPE, walking people across the street. And it's like groups of like large groups of people, and we stood there for about maybe 10 minutes, and they must have walked like three or four groups of people, and we're talking like maybe 20, 25 people in a group, just going back and forth, going back and forth. So a group, one person would be leading them to one way, and then they would go back, and then they would lead them back, and like they would just go, just a constant flow of people. And then my wife and I, we were just kind of talking, looking, and seeing what's going on, and then my wife figured out first, like, I think those are the people who are coming from Mexico. And I said, no way, like that's like so many of them. And then I realized where they were walking them to. They were walking them to the bus station. There was a bus station like right next door. And it was just a constant flow of people, and it was just amazing. I had never seen, I mean, I had always seen people crossing illegally. There's a golf course that I used to go when I was in high school. I know, like, I'm a fancy person, like, oh, I played golf, whatever, like, I ate caviar and stuff like that when I was in high school. No, we went to my wife and I, we went to very poor schools and things like that, and golf was just something to do during the off season and whatever. I'm just sidetracking, but there's a golf course that I used to go to, and it was prevalent. It was known, like, don't go to this hole, don't go to the back nine. I think it was hole 17. Don't go to hole 17. Don't even play the back nine. Just get to the finish your ninth, and that's it. Go back to the front and work on your driving. Go to the driving range or something like that. On hole 17, it was very prevalent. It was very close to the border, very close to the Rio, and you would have illegal immigrants coming, or illegal aliens, I guess, coming from, and they would be wet. They would literally just got out of the they literally just got out of the river, and they're just running across the field trying to get to the downtown area, because there's a downtown area very close to to that golf course that they're trying to get to. And there'd be border patrol driving in and out there all the time. It's very dangerous because these border patrol, they kind of just go very fast. They're just trying to get to where they're going. But it wouldn't be a lot of people. It would just be, one or two people, maybe three, not like a huge group. But when we went to that downtown area and we saw these people in those tents getting taken to the bus stop or the bus station, it was huge groups of people. And like I said, we were there for a few minutes, like 5-10 minutes, and like three or four groups must have gone by. And I'm telling you, it was at least 20 to 25 people. It could have been more, but I'm just trying to be conservative. It was like 20 to 25 people just going across. And it's like it has to reach a point where there's a there's a limit to, there's a limit. When does that line get crossed? You have all of this happening, and then on top of that, we have the Washington Post over here. On top of that, I found this YouTube page, this Rebel News. I had heard of it, but I never seen any videos. It kind of popped up on my feed randomly, and I watched a video, and I'm like, no way, this is real. So I started watching more videos. We're not going to watch any. You guys can check it out. I'm doing a plug for them right here. Go check out Rebel News on YouTube. And what were the videos that I was watching? It had to do with this guy right here. This guy right here. He has a channel himself. I don't know his name. I just started watching it, but he put out a video recently. This was happening in Australia, of course. That a lady and I believe her husband, or there were a couple. They might not have been married, but they were definitely a couple. They went to a park. Let me see if it pops up here. I want to show you just so that we can see kind of like a little clip of it. I want to say it was fairly new because this was the one that I recently watched a little bit, and just so that you guys can see, what is it? This one? Maybe it was this one right here. Yeah, I think it was this one right here. That's this guy's name, Avi. I'm not sure what his name is. He has his own YouTube page, but I think he does work for Rebel News. And so basically, this couple, it was a guy and a girl. They went to a park and they wanted to eat lunch, and they were just eating lunch in the park. And you can see they had their masks on. I'm assuming when they were eating, they would probably take off their mask and take a bite or whatever and put their mask back on or whatever, because over there you have to have your mask on even if you're outside. So just I don't know the context of it, but it just so happened that police officers came and they questioned the girl. They questioned the lady and they said, "Show us your papers, basically, that you're vaccinated," pretty much. And she didn't have her papers for whatever reason. She didn't have her papers. She didn't want to or she didn't want to show them. And they basically put her down on the ground, like straight up George Floyd style, put her down on the ground. And it just wasn't one or two cops. It like I want to show you. Let me pause this really quick. Hold up. Let me find this myself. I just so
So
that you
you're abusing.
guys just so that you can get the video, just so that you can get a visual of it, because they actually have it filmed. There it was. Oh, I just missed it. Just so that you can see it. So you guys don't have to take my word for it. You can see it for yourself. And they show like it's just a small little, like it's so fast. Gotta pause it right there. Okay, so right here, let me make it a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. So look at all these police officers. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are just on the screen, and then you got 3 of them on top of this one lady. The husband, the significant other guy, I think he's back here on this side and he's trying to film what's going on. But this is all because she just didn't show her papers. She didn't show her vaccination note or proof of vaccination, whatever they call it over there. And they brought her down to the ground, and they felt that she was enough of a threat because she wasn't vaccinated, that she needed to get thrown down to the ground face first. I'm telling you, this is, to me, this is like George Floyd style. Like maybe they're not kneeing the back of her neck or anything like that, or they're not putting their weight on her or anything like that. But look at all these police officers just for something so insignificant. You know what I mean? And this is kind of what's leading me up to this point where I'm thinking, I'm scared for the idea that this is becoming tolerated. And I'm not trying to incite anything, but I know this is a completely different country, and this rarely doesn't happen here in the United States. I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't. This rarely does happen in the United States because it can happen. I know in New York and California is just crazy, but I don't even know if police are doing anything about it because Timcast has mentioned that go to timcast.com. Timcast.com, they got a lot of good info on here, a lot of good stories, a lot of good news articles and things like that. Very cool stuff. They've been reporting that convenience or not convenience stores. I don't know if like Walgreens and CVS. I don't think those are like convenience stores. Those are like pharmacy type stores, right? Like little like mini grocery stores, things like that. They're starting to close down, and they're closing down because they can't afford the security that they need because people are going in and robbing them. Like they're just straight up walking. They're just straight up going in, taking $900 less. They're stealing less than $900 worth of goods, and they get to walk out. Nothing happens to them. And Walgreens has had to. I don't know if they have this story on here. I would like to show you guys so that you guys are not just taking my word for it. But I would highly recommend going to timcast.com and checking it out for yourself. They got a lot of good stuff. I'm just trying to prove a simple point. I don't want to go into like the whole article itself. But basically, they have to close down stores because they just can't afford the security anymore. They can't because the stores are losing too much money uh, from the uh, from the people that are basically robbing their merchandise, just getting free merchandise, and they can't afford to stay open. So you have that what's going on. I mean, I know this is California. That's like practically, almost a third world country. And same thing in New York. You probably have crazy stuff going on like this in New York, but I'm willing to have it in the back of my mind that I don't think police officers in the United States are like this yet. I think it's possible for them to turn like this, very tyrannical, where they just kind of literally throw your rights on the ground and stomp all over them. I believe that is very, very possible. That can happen because you have a lot of policemen and officers. I don't want to say policemen, women, and everyone who's in law enforcement. You have law enforcement officers that are quitting because of the fact that they're not giving any support. They're not giving any sort of, authority. They can't do anything. In California, those videos, if you watch those videos, you can probably find them. I've seen some on, I think Fox has reported on them. Timcast has definitely reported on them, but Timcast, they're usually pretty good about not showing videos. So I would definitely go to like Fox or something like that to check that out. But they've shown people they just walk in. There's one of like a guy. He comes in a bicycle. He rides the bicycle inside the store and like he just dumps stuff in like his little basket that he has in his bicycle. Just dumps stuff in there. Just like takes his hand and just scoops everything in and just throws it into his bicycle and just drives out. And there's literally a security guard standing right there, standing right by the entrance. And guess what he's doing? Recording. He's recording with his cell phone because he has no authority to do anything. He can't do anything. Even if the police were to come and arrest that person, all they would do is arrest him and set him free they wouldn't even book him. They would set him free and let him go because the attorney general, to my understanding, made it a point to say that they're not going to prosecute theft that is, $900 or less than $900. And that just opens the floodgates. So you got all of this stuff happening to kind of like normal everyday law abiding citizens. Like these people are abiding by the laws. They're not doing anything. Like this is her husband. This was her husband. Maybe not her husband, but her significant other. And look at this guy. They're outside, and this dude's wearing a mask. Like they're trying to follow the law. They're trying to be good, responsible citizens. But at what point do you reach that breaking point where that's it. I'm not going to comply anymore. It's time for action. And my fear is that all of this, like, there you go. That was a good picture right there. Look at this one. I think that's another person right there. Let's just say one, two, three. I'm just counting the hats. Look at this for one person. When do you draw the line? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because I see this. I know there's no context, but I kind of gave you context. I'm going to leave it up to you. Do your due diligence. Go right here. Avi, help me. Rebel News. You guys can check it out on YouTube. Watch the video yourself. See what happens. And is this reaction warranted? Like, is this an action that you say, like, yeah, the police were right to take it that far? You know, when the police are able to take this to this level and we are not able to react back, I got to raise questions about that. And that was something I wanted to talk to my buddy about. We're kind of coming to the end here, but I feel as if we're going to reach that point because everyone's talking about it. Even Tim Cass has been talking about it. Daily Wire has it up on here, I believe. Where was it? Right here. Will the Cold War turn hot? Because we're kind of in a Cold War right now. That's what a lot of people are talking about, and or not in a Cold War. We're in a Civil War. We're in a Cold Civil War, I believe that's what they call it. Will the Cold Civil War turn hot? Yes. So we're like in a Cold Civil War where we have basically two factions fighting for power. That's what it kind of feels like, and it's being waged through media. It's being waged through technology. You have, big tech. You have big media outlets. You have all this propaganda. You have these news articles coming out that just say all these crazy things. And at one point, at a certain point, it's going to be reached where it's like, okay, we have to draw a line. And what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? Is that line going to be crossed? And will action take place? I don't know. I really don't know. It's very hard to say. It's very hard to say because a lot of us live very comfortable lives and we don't know it. Like we wake up every day, the majority of us, don't get me wrong, there are some people that are legit underprivileged and they literally wake up on the floor. They wake up in different places every day and that's just life for them, it's different circumstances, different things led them to that position and it is what it is. But the majority I believe of Americans in the United States live very lavish lives. People, I live in an area that's considered very, very poor. I work at a Title One school, and a Title One school is basically the majority of your student population is below the poverty line. That's where I work at, and those are a lot. That's a lot of the schools in the area, basically, and that's just normal. And these people, they have cell phones. All their kids have the latest cell phones. They have smart watches. They have these Apple watches. They have all of the. I mean, I say smart watches because some of them are not Apple watches. Some of them are those Android ones. They're driving nice cars. All of them have like Louis Vuitton. Maybe not all of them, but most of them. You can see people. You can see a lady walking with like four or five kids, and she'll have a big old Louis Vuitton bag or a Coach bag or a Gucci bag or something like that. And it's like I thought these are the richest poor people I've ever seen. It's amazing. But it has to reach a point where once that starts affecting, once those people's livelihoods start getting affected, where they have to change what they do, they have to change their routine, they have to change their schedule. I think that will be the tipping point. Right now, I don't think enough has changed. There hasn't been enough of an effect for people to take action. Because right now, the only people that are really suffering through all of these shortages and all of these crises that are going on right now are just regular, everyday, middle America type of people, like what's it like middle, medium, blah, blah, blah. Can't even talk right now. I'm losing my mind. So like people in the middle class are the ones that are suffering the most because they're the ones that are following the rules, they're paying their taxes, they're going to work, they're supporting themselves, but yet you have people, a large group of people, I'm not going to say the majority, but a large group of people who are kind of just feeding off the backs of others. They're kind of just prospering off the backs of others by collecting all of these, through all these welfare programs, uh, food stamps, whatever you want to call them, and at their point of breaking is going to be much further away than like the middle class. I feel like the middle class would break sooner, but then on the flip side, it'd be thinking because I'll be thinking I don't want anything to go bad. I have a goal. I have a certain level that I want to reach in life, and I want to prevent something from deterring that. So I would like to exhaust every other option before we kind of just go, okay, talk is over. Now we need to do something. We need to actually start going in front of people and bringing these things to their attention for them to take action because they are obviously not getting it done. You know, I, it can kind of go either way, but personally, I don't know. I'm just thinking I'm more inclined to think that it's everything that's going to I think the middle class, the people that are working every day, the people that are grinding it out every single day, I think those people are going to be the first ones to snap. And then at the end, all the people that are on welfare, all the people that are basically just sucking on the teat of whatever sort of program they can, they're going to be the last ones to go. They're going to be the ones that are following along the mainstream because they don't want to lose their lifestyle. You know what I mean? They don't want to. Uh, have to change and change the way that they live their life, have to change the way that they provide for their family. They want to keep it as as consistent as possible and as easy as possible. The that's just the natural rule of life. The the what's the path of least resistance. That's what we want to take, right? We want to make as much, do as much without as much output, right? As efficient as possible. That's kind of what human beings are all about. And I remember Joe Rogan talking about that too. Human beings are incredibly efficient, and it's true. It's within our nature. We're trying to make things as easy as possible because we want the path of least resistance. That's what nature is inclined to go through. But I don't know, man. I really feel that you know everyone's everyone's threshold is different. It has to be, right. It just has to be because everyone's experiences are different. Some people live very privileged lives, very comfortable lives, or they've never been in a they've been fortunate enough to never have been in a fight in their life. So their threshold maybe a little bit lower than someone who has had a very rough life. They definitely people that type of people that have a chip on their shoulder. They grew up in a very difficult neighborhood. They weren't given as many opportunities as other people. Something like that. Whatever it is, everyone's situation is different. I think those people are more inclined to have a higher threshold. But I don't know. I really think that there should be a definite line, and I think I I can't say where that line is. I just really can't. I really like my buddy to be here so that we can kind of throw ideas off of each other, but I really can't say. I wish I could answer that question, but it's just kind of a thought-provoking type of discussion that at least we wanted to have. Like, where do you draw your line? I know where I draw my line. Well, you know what? I can say that. Like, we can end this episode with where I draw my line. I draw my line at my family. And right now, my wife and I, we don't have kids. It's just me, my wife, and my cat. And I know this for a fact. I know this for certainty. If anybody would come into my house or try to come to my house and they make knowledge that they're going to hurt my wife, they're going to hurt my cat, I am going to do something to make them not do that, if that makes sense. This is not a call to arms. I'm not trying to threaten anybody, but that's where my line is. It's without a doubt. I think I can walk down the street and someone can kind of flip me off. I can help someone and they can push me away and be like, get away from me. I don't want your help. I wouldn't do anything there. Like, oh, that's fine. It's like, I'm sorry. I tried to help you and you didn't want my help. I'm sorry. That's my bad because I'm the one that tried to help you. So I put myself in that situation. I understand that. But if there was ever someone to come to my house or come to a place, come to an area where my family is at, and they threaten my family in a way, I would act violently. That's where my line is. But I think the interesting thing is, I think that's where a lot of our lines are, right? There's just certain lines you don't cross, and I think family is one of those things. Like, we can kind of debate, go back and forth, like, okay, my livelihood, my car, my house, my personal possessions. You can kind of debate those types of things where, okay, maybe if they steal my TV, like, I don't know, maybe it's just a TV. Like, I got insurance and it can get covered, and if someone crashes into my car, it's like, oh man, it sucks, I got to go to the hospital, but I have insurance. So you can kind of make arguments you can go back and forth, but I'm willing to believe that the majority of us, our line is our family, whatever we consider our family. Because, like, I've told my wife that if my wife were to die or if I were to become a widow or something like that, like, or anything like that would happen, I don't know what I would do. I really don't, because my wife and my cat those are like that's like my life pretty much. I have a family, but I'm not really close with my family. I have a very Hispanic, very Mexican type of family where I grew up in a single parent home. My mom is the one that raised me, and then sometimes I would go see my dad. My dad was a very um, not an upstanding type of guy, but I really didn't care too much about him. But you know, but that's besides the point. Basically, my wife and my cat are my family. Those are the things that I really care about in life. Like, I'm willing to give up my dreams. I'm willing to give up a lot of the things that I enjoy just just knowing that my cat and my wife are happy, you know, that kind of overrides everything. It kind of makes the things that suck not suck so much, right? But I think that we can all pretty much kind of agree on that, that it's family is where we draw the line. I don't know. What do you guys think? Where do you draw the line? All right, guys, thank you for tuning in to episode 2. Hopefully, it wasn't too long. It's about 10 minutes longer than the last episode. You guys stay safe out there. Thank you for tuning in to Slamfire Media. This has been Slamfire. Take it easy.